I was the best friend in a romance novel, and at 18, I remembered everything. The girl I'd grown up with, my childhood sweetheart, was the female lead. She had once fought tooth and nail against the story's predetermined script just to be with me. But in the 6th year of our marriage, she cheated on me with the hero. But why, Olivia? Why? My voice trembled as I watched her, my vision blurred by tears. This was the girl who would have a meltdown if I even got caught in the rain, and now she just looked away, her voice flat. James, I'm pregnant. It's his. Childhood sweethearts. 2 halves of a whole. Such beautiful words, but right now, they felt like a sick joke. Staring at the stack of damning photos on the coffee table, I still couldn't accept it. The woman I'd been married to for 6 years, the person I'd known my entire life, had betrayed me. You're home. I heard the familiar sound of her key in the lock. I didn't have to turn around to know it was her. Her footsteps grew closer. I made no effort to hide the photos. They were splayed across the table for anyone to see. So you know, she wasn't panicked. Not in the slightest. Her composure was unnerving, nothing like a wife caught in an affair. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles white, and studied the face I had known for 28 years. I searched for any sign of love, of remorse, of guilt. There was nothing, only a placid calm. She stood there in a sleek mermaid dress, her makeup perfect, looking as beautiful as she always had. Time had been kind to her, but time, I was learning, could also warp a person into someone unrecognizable. I noticed the faint smudge of her lipstick, a telltale sign, and a bitter laugh escaped my lips. It was the kind of mark left behind by a desperate, forceful kiss. She was always meticulous about her appearance, especially after winning her Oscar. She wouldn't have missed that. She must have let it happen. I tried to swallow the lump in my throat, but a sob broke through. But why, Olivia? Why? I looked at the familiar features of the woman I loved and saw only a stranger. The vows we'd made still echoed in my ears, but she was the one who broke them. Tears streamed down my face. This was the girl who would have a meltdown if I even got caught in the rain, and now she just looked away, her voice flat. James, I'm pregnant. It's his. She gently cradled her stomach, and when she spoke of him, her expression softened into a tender smile. It was the same smile 17-year-old Olivia used to have, a smile that once belonged only to me. I didn't always know. Before my 18th birthday, I had no idea my life was just a story I'd once read, a cheesy romance novel about a couple finding their way back to each other. I was just a supporting character, the dependable childhood friend destined to lose. The quintessential best friend who never gets the girl. So even though we grew up together, and even though Olivia told me she loved me a million times, I'd always treated her like a little sister. After I remembered everything at 18, I kept my distance. I told myself over and over that I couldn't fall for her. The hero and the heroine always end up together. That's the iron law of stories like these. Anyone who breaks that rule ends up broken. In every book I'd ever read, the best friend either gets financially ruined by the hero, wastes away pining for a love he can't have, or just disappears without a trace. Their endings were always miserable. I didn't want that for myself. So after my 18th birthday, I started consciously pulling away from Olivia. But she was relentless. She'd find me after class, wait for me after school to walk home, and camp out on my doorstep on weekends, demanding I spend time with her. At 17, I couldn't stand up to her persistence. You'll find someone you're really meant to be with, I pleaded with her once. I'm just a stop along the way. You don't have to lock this down now. Her face flushed, but her eyes, fixed on mine, were bright with conviction. No, she said, her voice full of a sincerity that shook me. There will never be anyone more worthy of my love than James Asher. Never. She said it, and I believed her. I didn't know then what a fragile, powerless word that was. People change. How pathetically, predictably, people change. Turns out Olivia's never had an expiration date of about 10 years. A single decade was all it took for her to abandon the promises she'd made. A dull ache spread through my chest. I stared at her, my questions a form of self-torture. Ha ha, ha ha, baby, you're having his baby. My voice cracked. Olivia, oh, Olivia, he's only been back in the country for 6 months. And you two just rekindle things? My voice dripped with disgust. Cheating on your husband. You really are. Disgusting. She hung her head, silent, letting me spew my venom. She took a few steps back, instinctively shielding her stomach, as if she feared I might lunge at her and hurt her, and his child. When I finally ran out of steam, she spoke. Let's get a divorce. The house, the cars, it's all yours. I don't want anything. Don't blame him. This was my fault. But please, don't hurt my baby. She admitted it so easily, divided our assets so cleanly. Of course, the hero of the story wouldn't be short on cash. I'd heard the man she cheated with had made a fortune overseas. He wouldn't care about the scraps of our life together. My anger gave way to a chillingly calm laugh. I watched her pull a folder from her designer bag and slide the divorce papers in front of me. I'll have someone come by for my things later. You don't have to worry about it. Just sign. Fine, fine, fine. I grabbed the papers, nodding repeatedly. As a flicker of relief crossed her face, I violently swept the documents off the table, sending them scattering at her feet. I'll sign them, but you, get out. Get out of my sight and never come back. She flinched, then quickly typed a message on her phone and bolted out the door. I walked to the window and watched her wait by the curb. A few moments later, a sleek black car pulled up, and she gracefully slipped inside. The driver's side window rolled down, and the man behind the wheel shot me a look of pure, triumphant provocation. Caleb Shaw, the hero of this world, and the man Olivia had cheated on me with. He had transferred to our high school senior year. We had just gone through course selection for the honors track. Olivia, trying to stay in my classes, had loaded up on AP science courses she hated. I'd been confused. Aren't you better at the humanities? She had just grinned and slipped her hand into mine. I'm not worried. I have you. You're a genius. You'll help me, right? And I did. We spent the whole summer studying together. Senior year, we ended up in the same homeroom. But my happiness was short-lived. Caleb Shaw arrived. He had this smug, arrogant smirk as his eyes locked onto Olivia. He ignored the teacher's instruction to introduce himself at the front of the class, instead walking straight to the empty desk next to Olivia. Her deskmate was out sick and dropping his bag. Hey, seat buddy. I'm Caleb Shaw. From now on, I've got your back. Olivia completely ignored him and turned around to ask me a question about our calculus homework. I was sitting right behind her. I saw the whole thing, and my world went dark. I knew, right then, the story had begun. Olivia's original deskmate never came back. We heard he transferred schools. Caleb Shaw stayed, becoming her new permanent seat buddy. Every character, every event would bend to push the hero and heroine together. The thought sent a chill down my spine. But it didn't stop there. Soon after, Caleb and Olivia were chosen as co-hosts for the winter formal. The school claimed it was based on a student poll. That's impossible, Mr. Davis. It's not fair. Olivia shot up from her desk during homeroom, her face flushed with indignation. He just got here. James is smarter, he gets better grades, and he's better looking. She was so fierce, but then her eyes met mine, and she gave me a subtle wink. That's enough, Olivia. The decision has been made. If you don't want to do it, you can back out. The teacher shut her down, but after class, she tugged on the hem of my shirt. James, don't be upset. I promise, I'm not going to do it with him. I only like you. I only want to be on a stage with you. I only want to be with you forever and ever. Her eyes crinkled when she smiled, and the way she said my name was like honey. Back then, I was always her first choice. She was always, unequivocally on my side. So I relaxed. I thought I had the power to fight the plot. I let her go. I thought her feelings were so strong that nothing could change them. I was so naive for so many years. But even when she tried to refuse, the plot would find a way to shove them together. I got sick and missed one day of school, and in that single day, they somehow ended up on the same city bus, where they became heroes in a bystander intervention incident. When I rushed to the police precinct, I found Olivia crying her eyes out on a bench, while Caleb crouched in front of her, trying and failing to make her laugh. Liv, I'm here. Let's go home. The second she saw me, her tears vanished and a huge smile broke across her face. She ran to me and buried her face in my chest, mumbling, "What took you so long? You have no idea how scared I was today. James, I want you to read to me tonight." "Okay. And I want to get ice cream from that soft-serve place down by the pier." "Okay. Anything else?" "Yes. I need a hug from James to feel all better." She leaned against me, all her bravado gone, replaced by the playful charm I knew so well. But over her shoulder, I saw the boy she'd left behind, his fists clenched, his gaze dark and intense as it rested on her smiling face. I gave him a slight nod. He just curled his lip and mouthed 2 words silently. I read them clearly, just wait. And now, here he was, driving away with my wife, a triumphant smirk on his face. This time, the words he mouthed were, "Thanks for keeping her warm for me." I drew the curtains, trying to block out the sight, but half an hour later my phone pinged. A text with a photo attached. It was a picture of their hands intertwined, with Olivia sleeping peacefully in the background, her face a mask of pure contentment. Of course, I tried to smile, but my lips wouldn't cooperate. No wonder she was so quick to say she didn't want anything. She already had another home, another family on the way. The wedding photo on the wall suddenly felt like a mockery. I ripped it down and threw it on the floor. I went on a rampage, sweeping every picture frame, every memento of our supposed happiness, off the shelves and onto the ground. Shards of glass littered the floor. I felt a sharp sting in my foot and looked down to see blood, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the agony in my chest. My hand trembled as I pulled a small 4-inch photo from the back of my phone case. That's when the tears finally broke free, falling in hot, heavy drops. It was from our high school graduation. In the picture, Olivia had her head tilted, her gaze fixed solely on me, a brilliant, radiant smile on her face as she looked back over her shoulder. On the back, in her neat, elegant handwriting, it said, "You were my childhood. You were my first love. Through every season, until we were old and gray, it was only supposed to be you. Olivia Vance loves James Asher. Forever. OV." So people change, promises fade, and love comes and goes. In the end, forever was just an empty word. Everyone knew Olivia and I were meant to be. Everyone, except Caleb Shaw. It was like he was congenitally incapable of taking a hint. Olivia could scream at him until she was blue in the face, and he would just smile and be back in her space the next day. At first, no one thought he had a chance, but over time, his persistence started to win people over. Even Olivia's best friend once tried to persuade her. "You know, Caleb seems like a decent guy under that tough guy act. He's really good to you. Have you thought about giving him a shot?" Olivia rejected the idea without a second thought. She told me the story later, laughing and fishing for praise. But I couldn't laugh. I knew she had wavered. During all those times they were desk mates, there had been moments. She'd tutored him in English for the school's peer help program, the two of them staying late until the school gates were about to close. She'd blushed at his endless teasing and would banter with him when I wasn't in the classroom. She'd copy notes for him on the days he skipped class and would even help him correct his tests when the teacher handed them back. But whenever I asked her about it, she'd just look at me with wide, innocent eyes. "James, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous, James. Don't listen to gossip. I would never like him. James, I don't know what you're talking about. But I know this. I love you. Only you." She'd say it with such earnestness, but I could never fully bring myself to believe her. I'd already seen how powerful the story's script was. She was destined to be Caleb's desk mate, so the friend I'd arranged to sit with her suddenly had to transfer schools. She was destined to host the winter formal with him. So even with me in the picture, even with her wanting to refuse, it still happened, with me eventually making a concession. She was destined to be saved by him, to develop feelings for him. So even if it was delayed, she still ran into trouble, and he was still there to play the hero. The plot, it seemed, was always right on schedule, however late it appeared. It was all happening bit by bit, just like it was supposed to. I started tearing the photograph into tiny pieces, laughing aloud, desolate laugh. I had never escaped it. The details, the little moments, they were all part of the script. And it was pathetic that I was only realizing it now. 28-year-old Olivia had shattered the beautiful dream she'd built for me since I was 17, forcing me to see that one person's will could never stand against destiny. A dream can only last so long before you have to wake up. On the day of the divorce, she was punctual, dressed in a camel hair coat, a thick scarf, and combat boots, a rare departure from the high heels she loved. Seeing her slightly rounded belly and the man standing beside her, I understood. Caleb wasn't tall, maybe 5'10". Olivia was 5'9" herself, so even in flat boots, she had to slouch slightly to avoid towering over him. So what did she see in him? What was so special that she'd throw away our marriage for him? I tore my gaze away from their tightly clasped hands and waited for them to finish their tender goodbyes. I never noticed before how awkward they looked together. Caleb placed a soft kiss on her forehead, then spoke to her like she was a puppy. "Go on." At his command, Olivia walked towards me. It was the last time we would ever stand side by side. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her head down. "Sorry for what?" I looked at her perfect profile, not hesitating for a second as I signed the papers with a flourish. "For wasting so much of my time? Don't worry about it. It's over, right?" Her lips tightened, but she didn't answer. I stood up and handed the signed agreement to the clerk. Turning to the side, I took one last look at the girl who was once my childhood sweetheart, gave a small nod, and said, "I have to go." She tugged on the hem of my jacket. "James, I cut her off. Goodbye. Some things, once done, need no explanation." I walked out. "I need you to find out why Caleb Shaw came back to the States. We were all adults here. I didn't believe for a second that he came back just for Olivia. Or, at least, she wasn't the main reason. So what was the point of all his provocations? I had to know. A few days later, the internet exploded with news about Olivia. But it was all negative. Rumors of a secret marriage, of her being a mistress for a rich benefactor, of using a surrogate, a wild, vicious smear campaign. That night, the Shaw Corporation's official Twitter account posted a photo, introducing our new CEO and the future Mrs. Shaw. At Caleb_Shaw, at Olivia Vance Official, the comments were overwhelmingly positive. OMG. Power couple. They look so good together. I ship it so hard. This is the celebrity wedding we deserve. Congratulations, Olivia. So happy for you. And that's how you shut down the haters, calling her a mistress. A few voices of doubt were quickly drowned out. Wait, wasn't she already married to someone else? He looks kind of familiar. Not sure, though. That same day, Olivia called me. She started yelling the second I picked up, leaving me speechless. James Asher, I always thought you were a decent person. I can't believe you're capable of this. I was so wrong about you. Thank God Caleb was here to handle it. Otherwise, this online mob you created could have actually ruined me. You're such a disappointment, James. Your career, your character. Don't you see what a failure you are? I'm so glad I chose Caleb. Her words hit me like a string of firecrackers, shattering what was left of my heart. So that's what she thought of me. That's what she'd always thought. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Yeah, I'm a failure. A failure for ever being blind enough to love you. Cheating on your husband while pregnant with another man's child. You've really got it all figured out, Olivia. Before I could even catch my breath, another call came through. It was Caleb. How does it feel, James? You're just a regular guy. What do you have that can compare to me? Didn't I tell you to just wait? So what if you had her for a while? I still took her back. Doesn't feel good to be framed, does it? To be honest, I was the one who leaked the stories. A little scandal makes her more dependent, makes her feel guilty. Now we don't have to have a big wedding. So thank for that. You make a pretty good scapegoat, huh? He laughed like a maniac, his words so twisted they were almost unbelievable. It was a real eye-opener. So this was the story's hero, a real piece of work. In that moment, I was glad to be the supporting character. At least I didn't have to be associated with these two scumbags. I hung up the phone. Looking at the research file on my desk, I let out a long, satisfying sigh. Oh yes, the future is long. The real show was just about to begin. I enjoyed a period of peace after that. Fishing, hiking, golf, even a little spontaneous travel. These were all things I'd regretted not being able to do before. According to the plot, any one of these places could have become a stage for the main couple's dramatic reunion. To prevent that, I had put my own work on hold and practically became Olivia's personal assistant, half joking that I was just making sure things stayed on track. Ironically, that became one of her reasons for looking down on me, another justification for her climbing into bed with Caleb. Pathetic. Utterly pathetic. I took a deep, cleansing breath of fresh mountain air. It was a relief. From now on, things were going to be a lot simpler. I no longer had to live in fear of the plot, no longer had to worry about the hero and heroine getting their happily ever after. My part in the story, the doomed childhood friend, was officially over. A cheesy high school romance usually ends after the couple reunites years later, overcomes a few obstacles, has a baby, and lives happily ever after. But life isn't a story with only a few chapters. In the years that followed, would their life be a smooth ride or full of turbulence before crashing and burning? Who could say? I sent one last text message, my fingers tightening around my phone. But of one thing I was certain, I wasn't going to lose. Soon, the stock of Caleb's family company, Shaw Industries, plummeted. The market is always volatile, always unpredictable, unless you're the one pulling the strings. And as it happened, I knew my way around the market. The next day, I arrived at the country club and saw Caleb, Shaw, bowing and scraping to everyone in sight. What's he doing here? I murmured. Mr. Wallace, who had been walking behind me, leaned in. You know him, Mr. Asher? That's the young heir of the Shaw family. I hear he made a bad bet and lost a fortune. Now he's scrambling for investors. Mr. Price, another associate, came over to greet us and chimed in. Isn't that the truth? These trust fund kids should just stick to collecting their dividends. The second they try to take the reins, they run the whole thing into the ground. A total disaster. Exactly, Wallace agreed. Not everyone can be like you, Mr. Asher, a self-made man who can run circles around us old-timers. Truly impressive. I just smiled and said nothing. I wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble found me anyway. James Asher, what are you doing here? Caleb strode towards me, his face a mask of arrogant disbelief. I don't mean to be rude, but is this really a place for some nobody like you? He shoved me. Get lost. Go play somewhere else. I stared at him with cold indifference, but he didn't seem to notice and was about to say more when two of Mr. Price's bodyguards grabbed him. Please escort this man out, Mr. Price said coolly. My club has no place for people like him. They covered Caleb's mouth and dragged him away. I took a sip of the iced tea by my side, offering no comment. Mr. Price was sweating profusely, bowing apologetically. My deepest apologies for that disturbance, Mr. Asher. It was an oversight. As a token of my apology, I'm opening a new course on the south side of town. It's yours if you'll accept it. I smiled but didn't answer. He pressed on. So, our partnership. Business as usual, I said. And by the way, are either of you interested in taking a piece of Shaw Industries? I dropped the bomb and watched as both men nodded eagerly. A pleasure doing business with you. I never thought Olivia and I would see each other like this again. She came to my office, begging me to call off the dogs to spare Caleb's company. Watching her, voice raw and desperate, kneeling before me, I felt a confusing mix of emotions. This was all part of my plan, every actor playing their part perfectly. So why at the climax did I feel a pang of regret? I didn't know. I chalked it up to the last, stubborn embers of a love that refused to die. The floor is cold. Get up. You're pregnant. I can't believe he'd let you come here alone. I deliberately avoided her gaze, my voice dripping with sarcasm when I mentioned his name. I was the one who had leaked my location, but I never expected her to be the one to show up. She stubbornly remained on her knees. I couldn't bear it. I helped her to her feet. She looked directly at me, her large, bright eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Please let him go. Please. I forced a bitter smile. Why should I? He's the father of my child. I don't want my baby to grow up without a father. Her voice was choked with emotion, but she couldn't meet my eyes. A father. A child. She never even liked kids. She once told me she wanted us to be child-free forever. And now she was pregnant with another man's child and begging me on his behalf. On what grounds? Because they were the hero and heroine, the destined happy family. And I was just a plot device. Absurd. If that was the story, I was going to burn the whole book down. Are you married? When did that happen? I must have missed the invitation. I changed the subject, my tone flat. I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, a bitter, sad smile. No, not yet. We were going to wait until after the baby was born. After the baby's born. I repeated, a chill in my voice. Is that so? And will Caleb Shaw still be around for that? From the looks of it, he'll be in prison long before then. Her eyes filled with tears. Her hand trembled as she reached out and, just as she had 1,000 times before, gently tugged on the sleeve of my shirt. James, please. Please. It was the same tone, the same gesture she always used when she wanted to win me over, but we weren't the same people anymore. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to be cold. Let go, Olivia. I'm not letting Caleb Shaw off the hook. He deserves everything that's coming to him. Right now, he's a shark in bloody water. Everyone wants a piece. Even if I back off, there are plenty of others who won't. She clutched her stomach, sweat beading on her forehead, and suddenly collapsed to the floor. Her voice was a faint whisper, laced with a strange sense of relief. I see. Well, I should go. A sharp pain seized my heart, a feeling that something I had just gotten back was about to be lost forever. I caught her as she stumbled towards the door, scooping her into my arms. She felt terrifyingly light, as if she might float away. I rushed to the entrance and yelled for my driver. The hospital. Now. The doctor told me the baby was gone. And you won't be able to have any more, he added. She lay in a hospital bed, her face pale, but she let out a sigh of relief. Her voice was faint but firm. Good. Take care of yourself, I said, my throat dry, finally saying the words I'd been rehearsing for so long. From now on, we shouldn't see each other again. The plot had been irrevocably altered. Caleb Shaw wasn't getting away. If my sources were correct, he was already in custody. The list of his crimes was long. Statutory rape, ties to organized crime, even drug trafficking. Gathering the evidence to put him away had been my project for a very long time. The seeds of his depravity were there even in high school, and his years abroad had only made him more reckless. As for Olivia, it was over. We could never go back. It was better this way, without the child. She would meet someone new. She would have a new life. No, I won't meet anyone new. She answered, and I realized I'd spoken my thoughts aloud. I managed a weak smile, and, just like old times, ran my hand through her dark hair. You will, I said softly. We'll both be okay. Think of it like we had a serious illness. The virus is gone now. It's time to get better. I stood to leave, but froze. She had a death grip on the hem of my shirt. We can't go back, can we? Her voice was panicked, choked with tears. I turned back and gently, painstakingly, pried my shirt from her grasp. Liv, you have to move forward. Some things, once they're done, they're done. Some mistakes can't be unmade. You know me. I always settle my debts. So, goodbye. The moment my back was turned, the tears came, and I sobbed like a lost dog. Goodbye to the leading lady of the first 28 years of my life. Goodbye, Liv. Goodbye to the forever that was almost mine. Some roses are meant to wilt. Better to let them wilt in memory, where they were once beautiful. At least we had that. Epilogue. James, it turned out their ending was no ending at all. Not long after, Caleb Shaw's sentence came down. Death penalty. But the word was he'd gone insane. James didn't quite believe it. It sounded like a convenient ploy to escape his fate. He pulled a few strings and arranged a visit. He really did seem to be insane. I'm the protagonist of this world. The hero. The one who should be dead is you. All of you. Ha ha. Caleb was ranting, pointing wildly at anyone who walked by. The prison guard who escorted James just shook his head and tapped his temple, a silent gesture not to mind the ravings. This one got a few screws loose. James nodded, smiled at the guard as he left, and then sat down quietly to watch Caleb's performance. He said he was the hero. He said the world was supposed to revolve around him. He said he was supposed to succeed, that he had even managed to force the story back on track after it had gone astray. He said he used a system to control Olivia, to make her unable to leave him, to bend her to his will. He said he couldn't lose. System, quick, tell me what to do now, he screamed at the empty air. Tell me. Ha ha ha, I'm the real winner. I am. James listened to the mad, triumphant ravings, and it all clicked into place. The whole thing was a cosmic joke. He shook his head and stumbled to his feet. He had to find her. He had to ask her. Control. A system. He suddenly felt that maybe, just maybe, none of it had been her choice. But he was too late. He couldn't find her. He looked everywhere, but she was gone. There were the kids who'd grown up together, two halves of a whole. But now they were strangers. That bridge was burned. He now held the possibility of reconciliation in his hands, but the opportunity was nowhere to be found. It turned out their ending was no ending at all. Epilogue 2. Olivia, she became a completely different person, and the price was losing him forever. She had loved someone since she was a little girl, but somewhere along the way, she took a wrong turn and lost him. Olivia Vance loved James Asher. She'd loved him for as long as she could remember. She loved his easy charm, the way he carried himself, and most of all, the singular, unwavering favoritism he showed her. Everyone loves to be the favorite. Once you've experienced that kind of wholehearted devotion, everyone else seems to fall short. So, whenever another boy confessed his feelings to her, she would compare him to James. And the more she compared, the more certain she became. It had to be him. So, she told him how she felt, and he rejected her. He smiled, a gentle, apologetic smile, and ruffled her hair. I'm sorry, Liv. I've always thought of you as my little sister. Oh, a sister. Well, a soulmate was a kind of sister, wasn't it? She didn't give up. She was relentless, a cycle of confession and rejection, over and over again. At 17, he finally wavered, but just for a moment. His eyes darted away, and when he spoke, it was another rejection. You'll find someone you're really meant to be with. I'm just a stop along the way. You don't have to lock this down now. Her face flushed, but her eyes, fixed on the boy she had loved for years, were bright with conviction. No, she said, her voice full of a sincerity that shook him. There will never be anyone more worthy of my love than James Asher. They got together, and life with James was just as sweet and wonderful as she had always imagined. He gave her his undivided attention. He never spoke to other girls about anything other than schoolwork. But with her, he had endless advice, endless patience. He was always so understanding. He was brilliant in his AP science classes and was willing to review the material over and over with her. When she'd cry out of frustration, he would kiss her forehead and praise her. Don't worry, Liv. You're already doing great. To me, you're the most amazing girl in the world. She loved him. She loved him so, so much. Until Caleb Shaw showed up. Caleb would just appear in her life, out of nowhere, and then she would inexplicably lose time. Every night, when she tried to recall the day's events, there would be a chunk of her memory just gone. She was terrified, but she didn't dare tell anyone. She was afraid they would be scared of her, that they would leave her. Especially James. She couldn't imagine a world without James by her side. So she hid it well and made it through her senior year. After graduation, she wouldn't have to see Caleb anymore, right? Later, she and James got into the same university, just as they'd planned. She heard that Caleb had gone to study abroad. She breathed a sigh of relief. And at 22, she married the boy she had loved for most of her life. She told him, so they settled in Southern California. Every winter, he would take her on vacation to Florida. She told him she didn't want children, and he just smiled and kissed her forehead. I can barely handle one kid. I've already got you. So they never had children. She said they would be together forever. He held her tight and whispered, "You have to mean it. Forever means forever. Not a day, not an hour, not a minute less. Yes, forever." Her younger self was so certain they would have their forever. She never imagined she would be the one to break that promise, that their forever would only last 10 years. The year she turned 28, she won the Oscar for Best Actress. James was a nervous wreck. When he got home that night, he held her so tightly it almost hurt. "Liv, you're not going to leave me, right?" She was exhausted and a little annoyed. He was always worrying about things that would never happen. No, of course not. I'm going to take a shower. I'm dead tired. We can talk later." She brushed him off. She was so confident then. She thought her heart would never change, that James was her forever. But she broke her promise. At an after-party, someone slipped something into her drink. Dazed and disoriented, she stumbled into the wrong hotel room. She heard a man's voice call her name, Liv. She relaxed, letting her guard down, never imagining it was the beginning of the end. After all those years, she was tangled up with Caleb Shaw again. She was pregnant, a month along. She'd used a film shoot as an excuse to be away from home for over 4 weeks. This baby, it was Caleb's. She closed her eyes and fainted. When she woke up, she was in a hospital, and she saw him, the person she had despised since she was a teenager, Caleb Shaw. Things started getting strange again. She clearly disliked him, but she kept finding herself near him. She hated him, but found it nearly impossible to refuse his requests. She panicked. The symptoms were exactly the same as they had been all those years ago. She fought it, but it was no use. She tried to refuse, but it was futile. "See, Liv, you like me too, don't you?" "I knew it. What does James Asher have, anyway?" She listened as Caleb's insults against James grew more and more vile. She tried with all her might to shake her head, to deny it, but all she heard was her own voice, smooth and certain, saying, "You're right. I love you." But it wasn't what she was thinking. Her eyes widened in horror as she realized she was losing control of her own body. She could only watch as a helpless passenger as she became completely subservient to Caleb, betraying James behind his back, and even divorcing him. She listened as her own body spoke words colder than ice to the man she loved. The only moments of control she had were fleeting, just long enough to whisper a weak, pathetic "I'm sorry." Then Caleb got into trouble. She regained control of her body. But just as she was going to see James, she received a text from Caleb. "I knew you'd find him. If you can convince him to save me, I'll let you go. I'll never control you again. What do you say?" She was tempted. She still had so many years left, so many things she wanted to do with James, so many conversations she wanted to have. She agreed. But when she saw him, the overwhelming mix of joy and sorrow was too much. She collapsed. The baby was gone, but she was happy. If it hadn't been for Caleb's control, she would have ended the pregnancy long ago. But even without the baby, she knew they could never go back. Not ever. She knew it, and he knew it too. So she watched his back as he walked away. He didn't look back this time, and she didn't ask him to.